Well, obviously I haven't seen most of you since media day, but really enjoyed. First thing first, I thought the experience there that day was overwhelming. Just the setup. One thing that was very unique to that occasion versus my prior plays is just to streamline the tempo and get exposure to so many people in a short amount of time. I know our players really enjoyed it. I thought they did great. Some of the comments I saw, and then to come back and see the reactions. Obviously, some of the things that you say get taken, blown out of proportion, but everything is what it is. Excited. This is our last week with our kids on campus in their summer conditioning. They actually have classes next week, but everybody's on campus now except for two of the incoming class. Levin Hartzman is not with us yet, and then the punter, which I'm going to forget, Sam. He's not with us, but should be with us by the end of the month. So, no surprises other than that. Everything else full speed ahead.
Coach, how was it last weekend with all the recruits there and opening the facility for all the players?
Can't really go into a lot of specifics, but last weekend was very exciting. On Friday night, one of the decisions that we had made was to kind of partner a couple camp dates with maybe the culmination of walking our current players into the new facility, and had some great barbecue, which started it off, and then parlayed that into our first team meeting where we could talk some things, nothing X's and O's, just some general scheduling for them for the rest of summer, but then to walk them into our new facility, and had a couple cameras catch the reaction of our players. And then I saw some of the guys' tweets and videos and stuff was overwhelming. And then last weekend, I've never had a recruiting weekend like that, especially because there were a few officials, but a lot of unofficial visits, but had some huge momentum. And I think a lot of it was out of what they saw on Friday night from our own players, because that's real, that's genuine, it's sincere.
Last couple of days, the targeting has been talked about with other conferences, and the Clowney hit against Michigan. What are your thoughts? Are you concerned that it's going to be applied?
I sat for 48 hours in that rules committee meeting, and there was a lot of back and forth discussion. I was obviously one of the few active BCS coaches that were sitting in that room, and I know in talking to several other coaches, the committee had asked me to reach out to several coaches, not only in the SEC but other schools and people that I knew across the country. And one of the overriding things that our coaches asked me to relay was that they wanted to make sure there was a check and balance, which I thought was paramount, that we were going to be able to go to the replay booth before it became official. So I think that part hopefully will deter any potentially bad situations. But again, a lot of those hits are boom boom. I know one, I believe it was an ACC official, made a reference to the Clowney hit, and that was one of the plays that we looked at, and everybody in the room said obviously unanimously that it was a clean hit. It was just a football play, and that's what you don't want to deter from. I think the ones that they were very clear, and the ones that what I saw on film were the ones where guys were launching or leaving their feet. We just asked for clarification, and I think the positions that are most at risk, to be quite honest, are DBs. DBs that are making plays on balls, and maybe the ball's underthrown. All of a sudden they know they can't go for the ball. They got to go for the player, and it's just a potential, a lot of room for gray. Hopefully we'll clean it up.
You think it's a good rule?
I do. I think it's a good rule for player safety, as you all know. I think that's a driving force, to be quite honest. Some of the catastrophic hits that they showed over the course of time, some injuries that, obviously not just affected the player for a short window. Maybe he misses, a play or a game or two. You talk about guys that potentially are walking, difference between walking and not walking, being able to play, being able to continue life in a certain way. So the part that they kept referencing, and I think is a great thing, is the more player education that we can have to eliminate those type of plays, the better off all of us will be.
How do you talk to your players?
You know what? We'll have a video presentation. I believe it's the third night of camp that will specifically address that. We'll also, in addition to that, bring in SEC officials. They'll have their own presentation, which will obviously be a big part of it. But I think that the number one thing that will deter behavior is when you lose playing time. So you're a good player that knows that you're a good player that affects winning and losing football games, and all of a sudden you could be taken out of a game. I do think personally it'll have an effect on maybe games that you're up, hopefully, in a situation where you're up in a comfortable point where now maybe in that fourth quarter, so two things begin to happen, all right? So you're up by multiple scores. What do other teams begin to do? They begin to go no huddle. They begin to go throw the ball on every play, and every time you throw the ball, the chance for those type of bam plays in space are greatly increased.
You talked about things getting blown out of proportion last week. You're an outspoken guy.
by nature. Is this part of a plan on maybe helping create an identity for yourself, or is it just who you are?
No, I don't think I'm outspoken. I really don't, but I guess I get it. I just kind of reacted. I'm a firm believer in what I said and what I believed in, and obviously the timing of it. I didn't watch anybody that day go before me, so I didn't have any idea of the lead up to it or the staging into that particular segment. But I do speak the truth. I mean, I don't really care how it's perceived. I just, great advice I always learned is if you always tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said. So I tend to. I really enjoy Media Day because you can just go in, you can be real, and you can talk. I think some people are a little bit uncomfortable maybe because they're trying to remember what they've said in the past or maybe trying to cover up things that they don't want to talk about, and it's a lot easier to just go in and be honest and be real.
Have you found it difficult to be real in the fishbowl world of college football, living your life and being a coach?
Not this part of it. The only thing that you just got to constantly, is a separation of when you're on the job and when you're not. But in my position, you always are. Obviously, I've bumped into a number of you guys just socially out with my wife, and always to keep that in perspective, I think is something that I don't mind it. But when you're about ready to bite that first piece of dinner and someone says, "I hate to do this," well, then don't do it. Other than that, it's fine.
Has it been a different summer in terms of exposure and how frequently you've been out in front of media?
Yeah, I made a commitment. One of the great pieces of advice I got when I first got here was Sean Rochelle and I had a meeting, and he approached me about going to all those different Razorback clubs, and then it was 20 plus, and they were hoping to get me to half, and I just said, let's do them all. Let's captivate the state as best we can this first go around, and that's a decision that although that 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th one, sometimes 3 or 4 in a week, at the time got a little bit long, but I'm so glad I did now because you touch so many people. So that part's been unbelievable, and it's been a different kind of busy, but it's about to get busy in a way that I really, really like here on August 4th, and that I'm looking forward to.
From a fall camp perspective, as far as a list of priorities of things that you want to see happen in fall camp, what do you go into fall camp hoping to achieve to be ready for your first game?
Well, on August 4th, we can report and talk about everything other than football. So the first day can't really do anything, and I think that's a great way to start for us. Make sure everybody's on the same page, make sure everybody's on board with what we're doing. And then the NCAA has a way that you ease into that first week with players and coaches, whether it be non-pads the first 2 days, half packs the third and fourth day, and then we'll get our first giddy up with full pads on Friday. And then Saturday, we'll actually have our first scrimmage at the exact same game time as when we opened up with Louisiana Lafayette. The next Saturday, we'll do a game time that we'd open up with Sanford in Little Rock, and then the third week we'd do the game time because we know the first 3 games will be a steady crescendo that way through. I think just to find out where our players are at, I'm very excited to get our hands on a couple of the freshmen and junior college players that we haven't seen yet. I think that's going to be real, and then I'm excited to see our coaches work. You guys have all interviewed them. I couldn't be more pleased to where we are today with the group of coaches we got leading these guys through a daily basis. So those are important things.
Any thoughts on whether you'll open up some of the practices?
Yeah, I just met with Zach yesterday. For sure, the first week we're going to kind of keep to ourselves, and then as we go through, let you guys have a 24-hour in advance. So we'll definitely let you into some things, see exactly where we're at.
And when we left spring, Brandon Allen was number 1 on the depth chart. Is he entering the same position? Is it his job to win or lose?
No, I think when we came out of spring ball, especially after the spring game, and really the last probably 2 weeks of spring practice, Brandon established himself where he was, and that's why it was a pretty easy conversation that I had with Brandon Mitchell to let him know that, and obviously changed the course of him in a short amount of time. And I'm excited to see AJ Derby, and now you're getting it down where there's the couple guys that are going to be getting majority of the reps with Beener, and then the 2 freshmen, the 2 incoming freshmen, see exactly where they're at. Obviously, Jim and I haven't had any contact with those guys on the football field yet as coaches, so I'm excited to see Coach Chaney work with those guys.
Are you concerned you feel like need to be answered about your team when practice does start?
Well, I think depth is always and that's universal. There's certain positions that are going to be stronger than others, but out of spring ball, I think we saw some guys give us solid depth at certain positions, but there's obviously some positions that need to have some of these incoming freshmen maybe be a part of it. Everybody's been asking me a number on freshmen that'll play. We'll play as many as we think can help us win. You know, a lot of people think it's the physical ability, but most of the time with freshmen, it's how well they can handle the mental ability. How can they handle coaches getting on them? How can they handle, you know, the academic change that they're going through? How can they handle they're not at home? Mom isn't washing their clothes, isn't getting them up every morning. How do they handle being a man in a new environment?
Are you concerned at all about the offensive line and being able to establish who you want to be on?
You know, I think that's been a common theme just because of the type of offense that was played here in the past compared to where I came from. But I know we've said all along that we're going to have a blend of kind of everything. You know, Jim Chaney is in charge of the offense, obviously, and Sam has a huge impact on that, being the offensive line coach. I don't think any of us at the conclusion of spring ball were disappointed in any way with the growth of our O-line. I think moving Bray Cook from outside to inside is a really big factor. Grady Ollison looks incredible. When I saw him Friday night, it's the first time I'd see him in about a month, and he's in that 300-pound club now and really feeling good about himself. You know, Hurd didn't practice the last couple of weeks. I do believe a couple of those freshman O-linemen, you know, will you know, definitely be in the mix, whether they're starters or not or anything like that. You know, obviously there's a long time between now and then, but those guys might be able to bring us some depth.
Have you determined which guys were walk-ons that you're putting on scholarship this year?
We made an announcement at the end of spring, you know, when I gave those three kids, D'Apollonio, I guess put Lavin on there, right? And that was it. And then I do have a number of guys that, you know, we Defonte Lowe and Keontae Minor have left the program, so those guys are out of the business. But that opened up two more, and then there may be a couple more between now and when we report. As those become available, it would be my intention, and my intention always is if someone's in the two deep and looks like they're going to help us win ball games, I'll give them a scholarship. But the precedent will always go to seniors that, you know, have put in some time and put themselves in a position to help us.
About linebacker, just what are you looking at and how wide open is it?
I'm excited. I thought, you know, first off, working with Randy Shannon, seeing him have an impact on the guys has been awesome, and then to see some of those guys that have never really been put in that role grow during the course of the spring. But you know, two guys I'm particularly excited to watch: the hometown guy in Brooks Ellis, and then Martrell Spate. Both of those guys, I think, are going to have a very good chance of helping us in the fall, and it'll be exciting to add them to the group.
Time for a couple more, guys.
Coach, you really seem to have bought into the low expectations that everybody has placed on you. Do you think that the assistants are going to buy into that and players as well?
Well, I think as a head coach, you know, that was probably one of those media moments where you're just kind of, I didn't think you guys would agree so well and so easily to vote us last, but not saying anybody in this room did, but it was just kind of a play off of that, you know, and have fun with the moment. I know coaches, players, head coach, nobody expects to finish where that is at. I think as a staff, we kind of are enjoying the underdog, and no one expects a lot of things. But the neat time for, I think, an assistant coach in your life is right now. You know, this is your chance to shine. You got to. Everybody's coming up with different expectations. You know, just on the offense side of the ball. You know, I know Coach Pittman's going to get tired of hearing about the O-line questions. I know Coach Chaney's going to get tired of hearing about if Brandon Allen can play. And you go right on down the list. I think defense side of the ball, you're going to. Coach Partridge is I think, got, you know, 4 really good defensive linemen, but who's going to be around them and how are they going to play? Coach Shannon got unanswered questions in the linebacker group, so it's really kind of just a fun time to be a part of it.
How was that ESPN car wash experience? And did you happen to run into SMLs? And if so, did you guys talk about what y'all said immediately?
You know, the car wash, that's my, I believe, my 4th experience with it. I've never been there with other coaches. I'd always been in the past where you were the only coach there and it kind of ran you through. But obviously there was a set agenda, and it was pretty cool. It was a neat day for me. You know, I'd sent out a tweet on it, but, you know, Mark Stoops and I played together, have been great friends for 20, 15, 20 years, and to share the stage with them was kind of neat. I did run into a number of coaches. I did see Coach Malzahn. We didn't converse, not by anything more than we just didn't have time. It was kind of one of those shots. I saw Coach Muschamp, spoke to him briefly. It was kind of we got on a weather hold there at the end, right when we were getting ready to take off on our plane, and we were in this little private little airport reception area, and there was Spurrier, Muschamp, myself, and Stoops, and it was kind of just an odd. Everybody's kind of looking around at us like, who's going to say something? But it was entertaining.
Based on the personnel you have, and I mean, I don't know if you would agree that this won't probably be be the best personnel that you ever had at Arkansas. But based on what you have, what do you think the number one key is to being competitive this year?
I think the key is to have some guys rise up in critical situations. Everybody gets along great when things are winning, and I have a feeling that our post-game press conferences they'll be a lot better if we win games versus when we lose games, from my point of view, and maybe from yours. But when you're winning, it's easy. You just continue to hit all the right buttons and move forward. But when you have a time of struggle, when you're struck with adversity, when we have maybe an unfortunate injury situation, when you have a guy that's maybe not playing at the level that you hoped that he'd play at, to see the kids persevere. I know Ben Herbert has made a goal from last January we took over, is try to put our players in as many difficult situations as possible. During fall camp, we'll try to put them in an uncomfortable situation to see how they'll react. I think that's when men truly define themselves, is when things aren't going well, and how do you respond to it. So that's the stuff you can't simulate. As far as talent, I know this as a head coach, I know how to win games. I know how to have an expectation of what you see is real, and the indicators that I got make me believe that we have a chance to be a very good football team. Obviously I haven't played an SEC schedule. I haven't played one game in Fayetteville, Little Rock, or anywhere else. So I'm just excited to get to that point to see where we're at.
Last question.
I know you're a goal setter, so you probably obviously set goals for the season. You sat down with the staff and set them?
Yeah, you know what I do with goals? I love goal setting. I believe in my mission as a head coach is to do that. We met at the start of January. We met in the start of spring ball. We met at the start of summer, and I list goals and go through it. We'll go through a set of fall camp goals that'll carry us through a 3-week window. And then 10 to 12 days out from our opener, I'll sit down, and that's when our team sets goals. I'll get up in front and let them just start talking, and then usually they'll throw out a list of maybe 10 to 20 goals, and then we'll narrow it down to a select group, and then we'll narrow it down from there, and hopefully get to a set of goals. Because I really believe this, my role as a head coach, our role as assistant coaches, is to get guys in a position to have a great year. But the year really goes on the growth, the maturity, and the evolution of those guys in the room, how they play together. And if I set up a bunch of goals that aren't very important to them, it really don't matter. I would much rather have goals during the crunch time, during the fall, that they came up with, and that's one I learned from my former boss. I learned it when I was a defense coordinator working for Coach Alvarez, is he let the players set the goals in the fall, and that's always stuck with me, because I really believe that they have a vested interest in it. I can go to the guy, hey, you want to play well, if you want to play well in the fourth quarter, and I got film evidence of you dogging it in the fourth quarter, then why'd you say that? And there's a great amount of accountability there that I think is special.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.